Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Uh, in this session, I will continue the series of lecture for cost analysis and estimation. The topic will be about cost classification. Okay, so this is the third topic that we will discuss. Okay, in the previous discussion, perhaps you remember that there are different type of cost. So we call it cost pool. So cost can be grouped in many different ways. So we call it cost pool. So one of the example is that we are grouping them based on the source within the company. For example, as you can see here, there will be a production cost. So this is cost related to the production function or activities to process raw material into a product. So this is basically usually in the manufacturing, this is the primary function. So we are transforming raw material into finished goods. So every cost that are present in that process, it will be called production cost. There is also marketing cost. Cost used to carry out marketing activities. So this is the activity so that the finished goods can be sold sold to the customer, of course, so that customer know that we have this product and willing to buy our product. And there is also a administrative and general cost. This is basically cost used to coordinate production and also marketing activities. Usually we call this is a back office activities, yes, such as finance or perhaps human capital management, etc., etc. So this is one of the costs that are present. Usually in manufacturing company, yeah, the total of goods sold is the combination of all of this. Oh, sorry, the combination of the, yes. And then there is also the type of classification based on the assignment. Costs are divided into direct material cost and direct labor cost. So basically, direct material cost is cost of material that can be readily traced to outputs. Okay, as you can see, we can know the material cost from the purchase price of the material itself, plus the freight, the necessary what we call cost to transport the material into our warehouse, and then minus the purchase discount if there is present, and reasonable allowance for scrap and defective unit. Perhaps if there is a defective unit, then we need to also include them into the cost. About the labor cost, direct labor cost, labor that can be readily traced to outputs. This is wage. Example, wage is usually for people who actually work in the factory, in the production process. Outside wage, there is, we call it salary. Usually for back office people, we call it salary. Okay. There is direct one, and there is also indirect material and also indirect cost. So this indirect is indirect material cost is cost of material that cannot readily be traced to output. Usually is, for example, lubricant racks or small tools. As you can see, lubricant, it is used to help the machine to work properly, right? And usually machine, one of the machine, usually machine is not it's rare to have a machine that only can produce and can only work on producing one type of product. So usually one machine can be used to produce many different type of product. So how about that? How can we trace the cost of the lubricant to which product? It's hard to do that. So we call it indirect material cost. That is also for the indirect labor cost, like supervision. So the supervisor usually supervise the whole day, and we don't know which product that are produced at that day, so we call it the indirect labor cost. Okay, as for the all indirect labor indirect costs, including material and also labor, usually are grouped and call it overhead costs or indirect manufacturing costs. So this is what we call it, overhead costs. So overhead costs include material, indirect labor, and other indirect items. Okay, usually like that. Some preference also have further classification, like this one. Direct material plus direct labor, they call it prime cost. We can call it prime cost. Some direct labor plus overhead, direct labor plus overhead, they can call it conversion cost. So this is also possible. Now there is also classification based on the volume or activity. Costs are divided into fixed costs and variable costs. As you can see here, fixed costs that are not influenced by the level of production volume. So it stays the same, no matter how much or how many the production volume is. Fixed cost may be charged to department based on management decision or according to the cost allocation method. So we already talked about the cost allocation method in the previous. Okay, now there is also variable cost proportionally affected by the level of production volume. Cost proportionally affected by the level of production volume. So in here, in the variable cost, if the volume increase, usually the variable cost is also increased. Variable cost can be assigned to the operation department quite easily and precisely and can be controlled by a particular department head. So, but there is also semi-variable cost, or we call it also mixed cost. So this is semi-variable. It is the term used to refer to total cost when total cost include both variable and fixed cost component. So if it mixed between variable and fixed cost, then we call it a mixed cost or semi-variable cost. Okay, direct material cost and direct labor are generally variable, while overhead cost can be fixed or variable. This is usually like this. For analytical purpose, all costs are classified as either fixed or variable costs. Semi-variable costs need to be separated into fixed and variable cost components. So to separate this, we will discuss about how to separate this thing in other session. Okay, because the relationship between cost and activity in semi-variable cost is generally correlative and not functional. An estimation method is needed to separate semi-variable cost into component of fixed cost and variable cost. So we will discuss this further in another session. But you just need to know that there is also fixed and variable cost and there is also mixed cost, but we can separate them using some methods. Okay. Now for exercise, about this case, as you can see here, there is a case. So from the cost object in a manufacturing company, manufacturing a furniture manufacturer. So furniture, they create furniture such as desk, chair, and etc. So this case, they produce chair. So there are several costs that are present when producing a chair. Wood used in chair. So this is included, I think this included in the material. Okay, wood. Salaries of inspector. So this is included in the labor. Lubricant cost is in the material. Factory rent, this is what? Is it material? Is it direct? Sorry, is it material? Is it labor? No. Okay, no, perhaps no. Wages is usually labor. For factory worker compensation insurance, perhaps labor. Yeah. Sandpaper is some material. I think this is included in the material used to usually smoothen the wood, yeah, to make the wood smooth. Fabric used for upholstery, this is some fabric used to cover the furniture. Property tax on manufacturing plant, so this is taxes on property, and there is also depreciation on machinery. So how can we differentiate this cost between whether they are direct or indirect, right? So we can also, as you can see here, we can separate them into direct and indirect and even fixed or variable. For direct, as you can see here, wood chair, okay, direct, because this is direct material. Salaries of inspector, this is indirect, because usually salaries is for back office, so indirect. Lubricant used in machinery, indirect. Okay, because yeah, this is lubricant. We talked about this later previously. Factory rent, this is indirect. This is not included in the material or labor, so this is indirect. Wage of assembly worker, direct. This is wage for production worker, right? Factory worker compensation insurance, this is indirect because we don't this is not directly paid. There is condition for this to happen. Sandpaper, yes, this is a direct one because we always need sandpaper to smooth the product. Fabric used for upholstery, yes, we need them to cover them. But property tax on manufacturing plant, taxes, the direct, and depreciation also indirect. How about the fixed and variable? As you can see here, wood used in chair, variable, because what? Because wood is because the wood cost is always increased when the production volume increase. How about the salary? It's fixed one because salary for inspector, no matter how many production he work usually in a in a in a fixed time. Lubricant used in machinery, okay, variable. So although in indirect, it's a variable one because yes, it scale with the production volume. Factory rent fixed, okay. So no matter how many production volume, it stays the same. And then for the wage and asset wage and also compensation insurance, sandpaper and fabric use, this is all variable, yeah, because they also follow the production volume. And about taxes, they are fixed, and also depreciation, they are fixed. Another example exercise is about the from service case. So this is a sunshine pool management, providing each customer pool by providing supplies, cleaning and repair, etc. So as you can see, there are several costs like life-saving supplies. This is for lifeguard. Salary supplies, right? Uh, Salaries of sunshine manager, pool chemical, sunshine office rental expense. Pool chemical is used to clean the pools. Wages, okay, worker compensation insurance, we talk about this. Training for lifeguard. So this is training that are happen for lifeguard, usually only at the beginning of the time when, so that they have the qualification to become a lifeguard and this kind of thing. So it doesn't occur every time, every period. pH testing supplies, this is to test the acidity of the water in the pool. Office expense, including bookkeeping and clerical, okay, clear. Depression on cleaning, okay. So which one is direct and which one is indirect? As you can see here, life-saving supply, direct, okay, this is direct material. Salary is indirect, this is not direct labor. Pool chemical, direct material. Sunset office rental, this is indirect one. Okay, rental cost, wage of lifeguard, direct. Worker compensation insurance, indirect. Training for lifeguard, indirect, because this is only once. pH testing supplies, direct, because we always test regularly. Office expand, this is indirect, this is for back office. Depreciation also indirect, consider. So that is some classification. Other cost classification we can also use by the nature of use. As you can see here, investment cost. So this is first cost, the nature of use. This is used only at the beginning of the uh, process itself. Okay, so this is what usually called initial investment. So this is cost to require to this is the cost required to acquire an item and will not recur during its lifetime. So however, there is also operating and maintenance cost. This is the cost that recurring every time, so every period and this kind of thing. So sometimes like that. So operating cost and also have investment cost and also operating or maintenance cost. Sometimes we call it capital expenditure and operational expenditure. There is also other costs related to the accounting period or the period of benefit. Costs can be grouped. Capital expenditure that will provide benefit in the accounting period of current or future accounting period and recorded as asset. So usually it become asset. This is capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure which will only benefit only at the expense of the accounting period in which it occur. So this is some also other costs. So in conclusion, as you can see, we already learned how to about the classification of the cost. The most important volume-based concept, and this is volume, so okay, production volume, are variable costs, which change according to a change in the level of output, and fixed costs which do not. So variable scale with the production volume, while fixed costs do not. Direct costs are defined as costs that can be traced directly to a cost object, in contrast to indirect costs, which cannot. So as you can see, direct costs we also already talked about. The important concept in product costing, right, are product costs, which are the cost of direct material, direct labor, and direct indirect manufacturing or overhead required for the product and production process. So there is a product costing or production cost. They usually consists of direct material, direct labor, and overhead. This is usually so for you to know. Okay, I think that's all for this today's session. Hope it will help. That's Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.